Now we are going to discuss another topic, that is the ask command in SQL. And the ask command is always used whenever we want to rename a column or a table. We have to apply this with an alias. This is referred to as an alias. Now, an alias only exists for the duration of the query. And basically, I know previously we've been writing queries where we need to fetch out data or selected data or required data from our database. Now, you notice that, for example, when we applied the count aggregate function to our column, it returns a count title. That is, the name of the column was renamed to count, right? So it is always good we rename this using the as, that's the as command, to any column name of our choice. So this is basically what this topic is going to discuss. Now, this is the syntax for our column, our as command. It says we first use the select statement, then the column name which we want to rename, then use the as command, then the new name we want to give to our column, and then from the table. Now, the as operator or the as command to say gets executed at the very end of a query, meaning that we cannot use the alias inside a where operator. We are going to see that in practice. And so let's check another similar scenario where we need to apply this as command. It says the following SQL command creates two alias, one for the customer ID and one for the customer name column, right? So it therefore means that we can apply as many alias as possible, right? In this case, we have two here from the customers table. Now let's get over to our PG admin, and then we get to practice what you've seen so far. And in our PG admin, head over to your DVT rentals database. Then you right click and click on the query tools. It's going to take you to the query editor section. Now, what you have to do is, first of all, let us select the whole column from our payment table. Now, if we run this query, this is what we are going to be getting, right? Now, let's take, for example, that we want to fetch the customer ID column, and then let's say we want to give it another name. Let's just put it capital ID. No, let's use this. All right. ID is a reserved keyword. Let's choose another column. Let's take, for example, we are going to carry out the sum. All right. No, let's just choose this, and then let's choose the amount, right, from our payment table. All right. So we have this. And then let's say we want to, remember in our previous lectures, we talked about the group by clause, where we need to use the categorical column and then apply aggregate function to the next column. So we are basically going to do that. I want to use the sum function here, all right, and then from the payment, then we are grouping these by customer ID. Now, if we execute this query, this is what we are going to be getting. And now let me further order this by customer ID. All right, let me order this by customer ID. Now let's execute this query. It's going to order it in the ascending order. All right, so I want to apply the alias here, that is our as command, to the summation of this column here, that is the amount, and I want to give it a name. Let's call it total amount. You notice that when I run this query, our column is going to change the name to total amount, right? So this is basically, for example, let's say we want to, remember you can always download this data. by going over to the top bar here. It says save results to file. Now, when you click on that, it's going to download our file into a CSV format. And this file that is downloading is only capturing the data output, that is our customer ID and our total amount. Right. So in a case where you are asked to filter out maybe data from your database and you now need to rename your column, right? Your column name, instead of using the default, let's cut this out first to see. Instead of using the default sum, all right, here, you want to give it a name as total amount. So you can always run this query, then download into your CSV file, and then you can begin to carry out further visualization or analysis. Now, we also say that the alias is always carried out at the end of a query. It therefore means that, let's take for example, we cannot use here, for example, if you are to use the having clause. Remember we said that when you are using the having, it always applies to the aggregated column, all right? So the sum amount. Now, we cannot apply the total amount here. We cannot just apply the total amount here. Now, if you run this, it's going to give us an error. Okay? We can only apply this here. All right? We can only apply this here if you are to apply this, maybe greater than. All right? Be having this. Okay, let's get back this. Let's cut this out. Then let's head over to this. Let's say maybe having total amounts greater than 100. If you run this query, it's not going to give you any positive or positive output. So we need to use this, replace this with this, and then we run our query. Okay, total amount. There was a mistake there, total amount. Okay, so we still have the same result. We still have the total amount here, but we are filtering it here, having the summation of the amounts greater than 100, right? So we cannot apply the alias to a condition, right? So that's basically how to use this alias command. Also, and we can apply this to many other columns. Let's take, for example, we are selecting everything. Let's get back to our query history, and then let's go back to our initial query here. Copy to clipboard. Then let's run this. We can always use this. Let's take another example here. We want to select the count, and then we use as maybe total record. Remember, we can use this total record from our payment table. Okay, you don't need to separate these. When you are writing queries, you don't have to separate the two keywords together. All right, if you are to do this, you need to use a quotation mark around this before you can run your query. Double quotation mark to say before you run your query. All right, so it's either you are using a double quotation mark to give an alias to your column, or you write your column with an underscore. All right, so total record. So these are the key things you should know from our table. So you run this query and you get your total record instead of just getting count here as a title of our column. So it's all right. Thank you so much for